Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, helping you find the bliss in your busy. Today, I am here with Ann Kaplan. She's a parent coach. She does holistic parenting to help you improve your behaviors and relationships and has such a myriad of services. I'm so excited for you to hear everything that Ann has to offer. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ann.
Thanks for having me, Daniela.
So if you could share with my listeners kind of everything that Ann Kaplan, parent coach, encompasses, because I know when we were chatting ahead of time, there's so many different components, and I think just so many opportunities that it could benefit people.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, so I work with parents in whatever stage of parenthood they're in to improve the behavior in their home and their relationship with their kids. A lot of parents come to work with me because they're frustrated with themselves for how they're parenting, whether it's temper or maybe not giving enough consequences, or sometimes people describe themselves as pushovers and stuff like that. So really just about helping my clients discover exactly who they want to be in parenting and what their kids need and how to honor both of those things at the same time. And people work with me privately, and also I have a group coaching program. It's really just about where's the best fit for people when they come to get help.
I love that you talk about all of those pieces, because it's not just about the kids and those types of behaviors. I think so many of the women I work with, that mom guilt comes from those things we say about ourselves, those expectations that we feel like we're not meeting. And so to know that there's resources specifically to deal with that part of it, and that it's not that you're a bad mom or a bad person or things like that is so helpful.
It's really important. And for a lot of my clients, we discover not only is it important, it's the most important thing to be able to implement the other skills that they're learning. It doesn't do for me to just teach my clients like, here's how to use natural consequences, or here's how to have a really connected conversation with your kiddo. Here's how to ask your child empowering questions so they'll open up. If we are consumed with our own feelings of guilt and responsibility or depletion, or our needs aren't being met, I can tell you all the magical skills in the world, but you're not going to use any of them because you just can't really access that part of yourself when you are so overwhelmed or depleted or whatever.
Right. And I think those limiting belief parts of it are not only part of our parenting journey, but our personal journey that helps us to then, grow in so many other ways with our partners and our kids beyond just the parenting part, but that bigger piece of the relationships that we have.
I totally agree. And I love that you said that, because I think some of us, not on purpose, but we sort of almost put ourselves on hold when we become parents. Mm-hmm. And this is a huge chapter of our lives. You can't just, white knuckle it for 18 years or 20 years. Whatever. And we are human beings. We're constantly ever evolving and changing and growing. And that is happening alongside our children. And if we don't honor that process that's happening, whether we want it to or not, we can wind up really getting off track with ourselves and with our kids.
Right. I saw a quote, I don't remember it specifically, but it had to do with the fact that not only are we parenting our kids, but our kids are watching us grow and develop as a person during that time. And so to acknowledge that we don't have it figured out, we're not perfect, is teaching them as well how to be okay with not having those expectations and perfection in our mind.
I love that. Yeah. My clients hear me say all the time, kids learn most from modeling and experiences. So whatever you're doing in your life, you don't have to be perfect, but you can model a healthy way to do that. You don't have to never be angry. You can model healthy anger. You don't have to never make mistakes. You can model healthily making mistakes. Those things of like sharing the human experience in a healthy way with our kids is profound.
Absolutely. They do what you do, not what you say. And definitely to learn about forgiveness and apology and all those other things, I think is just as important than having that expectation of it just has to be perfect. And as a mom of 4 kids, is it?
Right.
I'm sure you've experienced a lot of that yourself.
Yes, for sure. My oldest kiddo is 17 and my youngest is 7. So I've gone through almost every stage of parenthood so far. Even the empty nest period, even though my oldest is still in high school, he had to go away for therapy and treatment when he was a sophomore in high school. So I've already gone through the whole grieving of not having him with me every day and not having him be a part of my day-to-day life. So I haven't exactly experienced empty nest because I still have 3 other kiddos underfoot.
Right.
That is a chapter that I have waiting for me down the road.
Well, and I think even though what you've experienced when you talk about empty nest, it's not just about not having the child there, but the change in the relationship of when they're not home. So you definitely experience that part of it of now it's a different dynamic because it's not about pick up your clothes, what's for dinner and that day-to-day stuff, but it definitely has you experience a different level of that relationship with your kids. So I definitely think you've already done a lot of work with that.
Yes, it is very interesting listening to, because now all of my peers, all of my friends who have kids that Elijah's age are, talking about, oh, he's going to leave and it's going to be so sad. And, thinking about their own kids' imminent graduation. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm over it.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn and you figure things out. And like you said, too, helping parents not lose themselves and still continue their own development and journey is, I think, part of how you get through part of that process because you haven't lost yourself completely.
100%. And I do think that no matter how connected to ourselves we try to be or we maintain during that time, I think there's still almost like a reconnection that happens as we create more space and more distance with our kids. I think a lot of us go through that even just as our kids go and start school, like even elementary school, like, oh my gosh, now I have hours in my day where nobody needs me and what do I do with myself? And those little almost micro identity crises that we have as our kids go through different milestones and things.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do to kind of find that bliss in your busy and take care of yourself as you're dealing with all these things as well as helping others?
Well, I really do my best to do my own work. So I know that might not sound like bliss to many people, but for me, it does feel like something that I do to serve myself is, my job is giving all day long as a mom, obviously to my children. And then when my kids are at school all day long, I'm meeting with parents and creating a safe space for them to be vulnerable and express their challenges and to be 100% in service to them. And so creating space throughout my week where I'm caring for myself is not just really nice, it's necessary. And that might look like something as maybe not so glamorous as talking to my therapist, journaling. I journal every day. All my clients know that I do a mindfulness practice. And because I really like to be totally uninterrupted, I go and lay on the floor of my closet when I do that. And I joke with my clients all the time about that. I went into my closet, closed the door. My lights are automatic. So as soon as the door's closed, the lights go out. No one even thinks to look in there.
It's the best hiding space ever.
Perfect. And I go in there and lay on the floor and do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and feel like a new woman. And anytime I give a workshop or something, I do that right beforehand for sure. And then I also just have hobbies that are kind of dork. I play the guitar poorly and
I love it.
But just even a few minutes of strumming on my guitar helps me a lot. And that was something I chose to do a couple of years ago. I'd always wanted to play the guitar. And I decided well, why don't I just sign up for lessons? And I did. I had never done anything like that before. And it was just a really big aha for me of I just really need parts in my life that are creative, totally separate from any sort of to-do list or achievement kind of thing. And it's just something I do for myself. I'm not trying to be a famous musician or anything. My goal was to get I always joke around. I just wanted to be good enough to be that annoying guy at the campsite.
Who's gonna pull the guitar out anyways, huh?
perfectly satisfied with that level of skill.
And I like that you went outside your comfort zone a little bit. I think we're so quick to just look around at what's easily accessible or what we already know how to do. And it's okay. Self-care doesn't have to come from the things that come easy. Sometimes being creative or learning something new can be just as fulfilling as the things that are more passive.
100%. And the same thing happened right around that time. I was kind of at a crossroads myself personally. And that's when I was like, I know all the things that help people with their energy and with their mood. And I need to at least give myself a chance to help myself. So I literally was like, okay, I need to be outside more. I need to get a new hobby and do something creative. I need to exercise more. And I joined like a new gym and made like a plan with a friend that we would just go out walking more and all that stuff, because I had realized that I was sort of like slipping into a really, dark place and not actually utilizing the skills that I had at my fingertips to care for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it is kind of, I don't know if you want to call it like a slippery slope, that sometimes we can easily let the positive things slide by the wayside when there are so many hard things happening, whether it's with our homes, our jobs, ourselves, and, to have that awareness and that intentionality, I think is where sometimes people lose, the part that gives them that balance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree.
What would you say people kind of think you have, quote, together, but you really don't feel like you do?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. Well, I thought I had an answer, but the truth is, like, probably and I think this is true for a lot of parents, you probably have it together more than you think you do.
Okay. Everyone's still living. Everyone's still.
Yeah. So like I mentioned that my son is away at treatment. And I remember when he first went away, how down on myself I felt, like that it must have been my fault that he was so, unwell, that he needed to this level of care and treatment. And, even though it's my job to all the time be educating my clients about the separation between their journey and their children's journey, and move through that kind of guilt mindset and into something that's much more about like being in support of our children without owning their stuff or making it mean things about us. That belief was really tested when Elijah went away. Mm-hmm. And I think that I went through like all of those dark feelings, and I came out the other side, and obviously I'm here to tell the tale, and I'm happy to. Anyone out there who's struggling with things like that, you're not alone, and I'm a very a good listener for that stuff. But it's easy for me even now to say like, oh, everybody thinks I'm so zen about the fact that Elijah's in treatment and stuff like that. But that's not really true. Like I have moments all the time where I cry about it, or I think about what's the rest of his life going to look like, or what's it going to be like when he comes home, and will I be able to handle it? And or I feel ashamed of myself for thinking that, I don't maybe want him to come home, or that I don't know if I can go back to the way it was before, and things like that. And so I can beat myself up for that and say like, oh, I'm really not as together as I quote unquote should be. Mm-hmm. But if I tap into my higher self, I know that that's not true. I know that all the feelings that I have are totally normal and allowed, and they're not an indication of the fact that I'm not put together or that there's some shortcoming on my part at all. Mm-hmm. And I really try to help my clients get to that place where looking at themselves as a hot mess is almost hard for them to do. Like I really just don't see myself more.
And I love your honesty with all of that, because I think as you're speaking, actually, I almost wanted to like reframe the way I asked the question, because I think having it together doesn't mean everything's perfect. It means everything's real and that you have feelings. I think the honesty and acknowledging them and talking about them is maybe more that together part. Like you've even just right now just reshaped my whole way about thinking about that, because it is just the reality of everyone's life that we all have those hot mess things. And it's not that they're bad, but I think how we let that messiness consume us is maybe where we feel that.
Right. When you kind of layer on top of the fact that you're going through something hard, a bunch of beliefs about the fact that you're going through something hard, mm-hmm. That's when it's kind of like you quote unquote don't have it together. But going through something hard, it's that's just how life is. And I find it to be quite rhythmic, and embracing that, and knowing that no place is ever our forever place. And even seeing emotions as kind of, this might be a little too woo woo for some people, but that your emotions are just kind of, I don't know, like a wave of experience that passes through your body. It's not forever, and it doesn't mean anything permanent.
Right. And I don't see that as woo personally as a social worker. Obviously, like, I think mental health is something everybody deals with. We all have a mind, we all have feelings, we all have experiences. And I think we all do need to talk about these things more and get comfortable with them. I think it's the discomfort and the shame and the hiding that makes it bad and unapproachable, versus the way we all talk about all sorts of things. We could normalize this same conversation.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I think the more people just talk about the truth of their experience, the better. And I've always been zero boundaries when it comes to sharing my stories. So that wasn't like a big leap for me, but I think I didn't really appreciate the value in doing that until I was much older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think as time and wisdom and experience helps us to, almost like I'd heard a quote, like, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only do it after you go back to see the benefit and the knowledge that you gained from different experiences.
100%. I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
So looking forward then at the things that you do appreciate and you do have, I always ask my guests, what are the things you're the most grateful for? And what would you say are those 3 for you, or 2 or 3, whatever?
Well, I was thinking about this because I just peek behind the curtain. I got a heads up I was going to get this. And so one of the things that I was thinking I'm so grateful for is like just the opportunity and access that I have to all of the tools and knowledge and information that I utilize every day. Like, being a coach has allowed me to access what I consider to be my like higher purpose of helping elevate the people around me and move them into a higher energy space. But also it has given me access to tools that I never would have known about, that I use all the time with myself and with my children. Mm-hmm. The privilege that I have being who I am in this society is something that I am grateful for. And I try my best to use it in service of everyone around me that I possibly can. And the other thing that's a benefit of being, and I think you probably experienced being a social worker, is like, we get glimpses into other people's realities and experiences and families and situations and circumstances. And I think that gives us a perspective that most people don't get to have. And that's probably maybe the second thing I'm grateful for, is that like 30,000 foot level reality check that my life affords me daily every time I turn on Zoom and literally see into someone else's house and things like that. So, and then obviously I'm just super grateful for my family and the community that we've created just in our 4 walls of love and respect and emotional safety and belief in each other. And yeah, I guess I'm grateful and proud for that. Gratitude is a challenge for me. With a lot of my clients struggle with like, write a gratitude journal or something like that. And here's a little parenting tip for anybody, because I had this hack with my daughter actually. So she is if you don't understand the why behind her behaviors, she comes off as someone who's very self-absorbed and always wants attention and always wants praise. And it's always, what have you done for me lately? Now, I understand her on a deeper level and help her understand herself on a deeper level. So I know that that's just the surface way that she shows up when she's not in a healthy place emotionally. So one of the things that she struggles with is gratitude. She doesn't say thank you, or she might say thank you and then instantly get upset because you're not giving her the second thing that she wanted. Like, I picked her up from gymnastics one day and she was like, well, can we go to Starbucks? And I said, it's 9:00 and I'm really tired and we have a big day tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. And she instantly was just like, really, feeling super put out. And what I found works way better with her than saying like, what are you grateful for? Or do you see the things around you that are happening for you? Like, for example, the fact that you go to gymnastics.
Right.
I instead helped her to recognize how it feels when she enjoys those gifts or blessings or benefits. So instead of saying like, why aren't you grateful for this? It was much more like, do you notice that this happened? Yes. How does it feel to know that someone cares about you so much that they would take you to gymnastics or get you your favorite thing at the grocery store or whatever, and actually sit with her for just a minute or less than a minute for her to actually feel not just grateful that somebody did this for her, but that how it feels to be loved like that.
Right.
And it seemed like a much more accessible way for her to process how lucky and blessed she truly is. So anyone out there who struggles with getting their kids to feel gratitude or to be grateful, connect it with like how much they are loved and what it feels like to be someone who the world wants to give this stuff to. It seemed to work a lot better I've seen that work a lot better with clients too.
No, I love that. It's so tangible and actionable. And I think it's a great way to reframe stuff, because that's the thing with so many of these things, whether it's self-care or gratitude or parenting, to have options, right? Because I think every situation is going to warrant something a little bit different is a great way to have that practice. I know when my kids were younger, to even simplify it a little bit further, I would just ask them what made them smile that day. And so, because to think of, well, what are they grateful for is hard, but they know what made them laugh, what made them smile. To focus on that good is the beginning part of that whole practice for sure.
Yeah. And I just love those kinds of hacks because it kind of, I think often, especially moms, were really good at this, taking this like gratitude thing and turning it into this obligation. Like, you should be grateful. You shouldn't be sad because look at all these great things you have. And to take the obligation off of the page by saying, oh, that made me smile, or wow, it feels really good to be someone who's so special that they would take me to gymnastics 3 times or whatever. Like it changes it around, I think, for people, and it just gets to feel like good and special instead of like this sense of like a higher obligation or something that I think sometimes we accidentally turn everything into a weapon against ourselves. We moms.
Yeah. And it just makes it simple. I think the simpler all these things can be, the more we're going to be able to access them. Our families and kids are going to be able to use them rather than feeling like it has to be work or it has to be big.
100%.
So where can people find you, Ann, to work with you? Because I think you look at just these little bits that you dropped today in the episode, all this great advice, and a bigger scale of how you help people. I want definitely my listeners to be able to find you.
Totally. So the best way to kind of get into my universe and actually get some of this help like immediately is to get my free workbook. It is a workbook that helps you get your kids to listen the first time, which is like number one from clients is I have to repeat myself a million times. No one ever listens to me. So you can literally fix that in one day with this workshop or workbook. And then you'll also be on my mailing list. So you'll get weekly emails from me with like little video tutorials on parenting tips and just encouragement and tons of love and positivity for me. And you can find that super easily. It's a bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/kidswholisten.
And I'm going to have that link in the show notes below. So definitely reach out, grab that. I think I'm going to grab a copy of the workbook too, because it sounds fantastic. Because regardless of age, I think that's one of those constants, that you feel like you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And the cool thing, I designed that workbook to be a really great like segue into all of the parenting skills that I teach. So the principles that are in that book are really the foundational principles that are in every single thing that I teach. So it's just like a little 3-page workbook that you fill out. And by the end, you're going to have some really amazing tools to use immediately with your kids and some new concepts that you can start applying to other challenges besides just that whole listening challenge.
I love that. So definitely click on the link below, grab Ann's workbook, get on her list and connect with her. And thank you so much, Ann. I'm so excited we got the chance to talk today.
Me too. Thanks so much, Daniela.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much and talk to you soon. Bye.